Good afternoon, and welcome to today's caregiver webinar, Long Distance Caregiving and Effectively Navigating the Distance Separating You and Your Loved One. My name is Katherine Hall, and I am the Social Services Specialist in the Caregiver and Support Services Unit with the Fairfax Area Agency on Aging. Just a few housekeeping items before we begin today's session. Today's presentation is being recorded. A link for the recording of the session and the slides will be sent to all of you by next week. We have enabled closed captioning, and you can turn the captioning on or off of your Zoom panel at the bottom of the screen. If you have any questions today during the presentation, we ask that you please use the Q&A button. We will try to get through as many questions as we can at the end of the presentation. And there will be a quick survey as you sign out. If you can please take a moment to answer those questions, it really does help us create programs that are relevant and interesting to our caregiver community. Now, I would like to introduce our speaker today, Deme Warner. Deme has been a social worker, case manager with ElderLink since December 2023. Deme earned her Bachelor's of Social Work from Shepherd University in 2015, and then her Master's of Social Work from Salisbury University in 2016. Before joining ElderLink, Deme's social work background included supporting older adults through her hospice journey. Deme, will you please join us on camera?
Good afternoon, I guess now. Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Catherine, and thank you for the introduction. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here to get us started. In one moment. Okay, so hopefully we can see the screen and that you are in the right place today. Thank you so much for joining us, carving out the time to join us for this presentation, Long Distance Caregiving, how to effectively navigate the distance separating you and your loved one. So I will go ahead and get us started. So to start us off, what is a long distance caregiver? You might be one and you not realize it, but I would like to take the time to kind of define what that looks like. So if we're looking at a long distance caregiver, typically we are considering that as a caregiver who lives an hour or more away from their loved one who needs care. Certainly the distance can change over time. Obviously, life experiences change, life circumstances change. So we might move further or even closer away. But that's typically what we consider a long distance caregiver. In many cases, long distance caregivers work collaboratively with another person or professional who lives closer and or takes on more of the everyday responsibilities of caring for their loved one. This isn't always the case, but oftentimes the experience that I have is usually there are closer caregivers. Usually it's a spouse taking care of another spouse, maybe a child that moved in with their parents and is taking care of their parents, or even siblings taking care of one another. You are a long distance caregiver, you are still very valuable to the caregiving journey and can still play a very important role in supporting your loved one and any other individuals that are involved. Definitely you'll learn more as I kind of carve through what your role will look like as a long distance caregiver. And I do want to touch too, there might be cases where there isn't another individual involved and you are primarily the caregiver from a long distance away. There are circumstances like that. Again, still a very supportive role and can bring a lot of benefits to your loved one. So diving into what is your role as a long distance caregiver? I usually kind of break it up into 5 different categories. I'll discuss them a little bit more in detail, but overall, what we're really looking at in your role is the care management side of things, financial management, medical management, advanced care planning, and research. So let's dive into each of these categories. There might be some times where your caregiving journey will look different, where you might find yourself having your hands in each one of these roles, where you're doing care management and medical management and research. You might also find yourself where you're not doing any of these responsibilities at the time. Maybe everything is pretty status quo, but just know that this is typically what we find is most beneficial with our long distance caregivers. So the care management side of things, really what this entails is looking into formal and informal supports for your loved one. When we consider formal supports, that usually entails professional caregivers that maybe have some background, training, certifications in caregiving. And what that looks like is our home health agencies, private home care agencies, private caregivers, palliative care, or hospice care. There's certainly a plethora of different options out there, but those are kind of the general formal resources that we think of in terms of care management. Our informal supports typically look like in embracing our friends, families, neighbors, and volunteers for caregiving assistance. Again, more of that day-to-day support if we are serving as a caregiver at a long distance. When we are considering formal supports, typically that does look like it can come with an out-of-pocket expense, or your insurance may cover it, or there might be some programs available that help you hire these services. As opposed to informal, a lot of the times they are volunteering their own time, their resources. They want to help in whatever way they can. So just a little bit of the difference there and what that can look like on the care management side of things as you're kind of coordinating in-home caregiving. Again, there might be circumstances where maybe your loved one isn't at that point, but that could become a part of your role if care needs change along the journey.
Demi, sorry, I didn't want to to
Yeah,
interrupt you, but we have some folks who are having some trouble with hearing. If you could just project a little more, just speak even
absolutely.
louder, as
I
loud as,
can,
thank you so
yes,
much. Okay,
absolutely. I'm going to get a little closer to, hopefully.
that's so much better. Thank you.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. Thank you for speaking up. All right. So diving into financial management. So I think this is a big one that a lot of clients that I assist will discuss as a role that they take on, whether they are a long distance caregiver or even if they are a day-to-day caregiver. So what that looks like is assisting with finances, money management, insurance claims, or even paying bills, assisting with that. As a long distance caregiver, ways that you can assist with this is first off, starting with scheduling the time to review finances. So, when working with your loved one, they might be used to being the only one that knows their finances, knows what bank they go to, how much they're making in Social Security, pension, things of that sort. So it might be beneficial to schedule the time to review finances, as that could really come into play as we are looking into longer term care planning, as well as, enlisting help in other resources and just making sure the person is on top of any bills and things of that sort. That brings me to my next point. So, scheduling when bills are due. This kind of goes hand in hand with scheduling the time to review finances. So, a lot of the times when we are considering billing, usually they come on a monthly basis, quarterly basis, things of that sort. So, making sure that you, as a long distance caregiver, know when those bills are due, as well as ensuring that your loved one knows when those bills are due. That way, if care needs do change, let's say your loved one ends up in the hospital for a short period of time, or maybe has to go to a rehab for a short period of time, you might be able to step up and help with submitting those bills and knowing when they are due to avoid any overdue notices. A big one that I think is really great in today's world of technology is setting up auto pay. I know that's not the case for everyone, and there are certain payments where um, auto pay is not available, but certainly can ease some of the quote unquote burden of keeping up on the schedule of paying bills. If you feel comfortable having, when you talk to your loved one, calling the bank or calling the, different agency that you are paying the bills to, um, setting up that auto pay. Typically, you have to go through the process one time. And from there on out, every month or quarterly or whenever the bill is due, they will take that money to then pay the bills. So can just definitely be an ease to a lot of individuals. Setting up a monthly budget can be very important, especially for those who maybe, are don't have a ton of financial resources. Obviously, cost of living can look different depending on the area you're in, the needs that you have. So setting up a monthly budget so you know where your money is going to. So paying not only, if there's rent or, mortgage payments, what does groceries look like, medications, any out of pocket expenses that you're paying for medical needs, or even, if you are paying formal support services, budgeting that into your monthly expenses. Again, that could always change over time, but it would be great to do that with your loved one, so that way you're planning as much ahead as you can. Ensuring that a durable power of attorney is in place. As Catherine mentioned, my background is in hospice care. So this was something that I was assisting a lot of individuals with. Because there might come a time where either cognitively we're not of sound mind to handle our finances, or even physically, if we're unable to make it to the bank or make deposits, that would allow our durable power of attorney to step up and assist in those ways. And making sure if you do have a durable power of attorney, making sure your bank has a copy of it, making sure your long distance caregiver or whoever is the appointed durable power of attorney has a copy of that. So that way, hopefully, you're not going to run into issues when your loved one might be assisting you. And then helping with pre-authorizations. This is specifically, looking at insurance things. Maybe you're looking into a procedure or a surgery, and your long distance caregiver could be the one to assist you with making those phone calls and getting those pre-authorizations if needed. Go ahead and move forward into medical management. So financial management can definitely play a role in our medical management, but I kind of broke it up a little bit differently with our medical management in a couple of different categories. So certainly as a long distance caregiver, you can assist with ordering medical equipment as our loved one's body changes, their capabilities change. Maybe we had an injury. Sometimes we need to enlist the help of medical equipment if the goal is for them to safely be at home and independent as possible. So this can include resources such as a hospital bed, rollator, walkers, canes, oxygen. There are a ton of medical equipment options out there. And your long distance caregiver can, that role can certainly assist with that, not only in just the ordering side of things, but maybe talking to a medical professional to see what would be most helpful to have in your home. Medications, I think, is another big one when talking with clients that they are concerned with maintaining long term, but certainly a long distance caregiver can assist with this. So I always say starting off with a list of medications is really the starting point. So reviewing the list of medications that your loved one has, as well as, who what doctor prescribes the medications, the schedule on which they take the medications, and yeah, just have a very detailed list that way. That way, our long distance caregiver could also potentially assist with refills. Setting up medication delivery. I know this is a very helpful one to maybe individuals who aren't able to leave the home as safely as independently. So medication will actually get delivered to their homes to minimize that. Medication reminders can look a little bit different for everyone, but I know some long distance caregivers will assist with setting alarms on a person's phone, or if you have like an Alexa type device to remind their loved one to take their medications. There's also specific medication organizers that have alarms on them. So I think we've all seen the traditional ones where we can pop open. It's Monday through Sunday, sometimes AM and PM separated, but there's actual organizers that have an alarm on them that will sound and won't turn off until you take your medication. So that could be something too. If you're noticing a traditional organizer isn't working for you or your loved one, that a long distance caregiver can assist with. Ordering personal care supplies. So that can include briefs, wipes, chucks pads, any other personal things that are needed for, maintaining your physical health. Your long distance caregiver can certainly assist with ordering those supplies, maybe even calling you to see, okay, how much more do you have of your briefs? Are you running low on your wipes? I can reorder those and get them to you. Or even much like auto pay with bills, a lot of people will just set up like an auto delivery of those supplies if they foresee using them for a long-term solution. So that way they don't even have to worry about checking how many they have left. They know every 30 days or so they're going to get an order of briefs or wipes. And lastly, with medical management, doctor's appointments. So again, I know technology can certainly have its complications, but I think in terms of doctor's appointments, it can be so beneficial when we are seeking support from our long distance caregivers. It can allow them the opportunity to join virtually or by telephone. If that's your preference, obviously, you want that to be an open conversation between the long distance caregiver and the loved one they are caregiving for, if that is something that they would like. Or even giving consent. Maybe they can't join at the actual time of the appointment, but giving them consent to call the doctor afterwards and get a report from the doctor, or have access to, I know around here, My Chart's a big one, or some other portal to allow your long distance caregiver to have access to. That way, you don't have to relay all the information to your loved one. They can read the doctor's notes and be up to date on how your appointments went. Moving into advanced care planning. So I know we briefly discussed durable power of attorney. We're also going to dive into what the medical side of advanced care planning can look like. So there's a medical power of attorney. So this is an adult that is legally appointed by the individual. So if you are the long distance caregiver, it would be your loved one who is appointing the individual, whether that is you as the long distance caregiver or another individual, to make healthcare decisions in the event that they no longer have the cognitive capacity to make them. A lot of the times with these medical power of attorneys, they do not take place until that loved one becomes unable to make their own decisions. Each medical power of attorney can look a little bit different. I know some people will go online and just download a free medical power of attorney, but there's also options to have, a lawyer or someone, an attorney, look at the medical power of attorney, draw it up for you, and make sure that it is as legal as possible. So that way, if you ever run into a circumstance where your loved one cognitively does not have the capacity, that is in place. With all of these advanced care planning options that I'm about to go over, I always encourage everyone to not only make copies of them, so make copies for yourself, make copies for your doctors, make copies for whoever is your decision maker and your long distance caregiver, but as well as review them. If you made a medical power of attorney when you were 45, it could look, you might have different decisions that you would choose when you are 75. So making sure you review any of these advanced care plans to make sure they are still meeting the needs of what you would like for your wishes. Next is a healthcare surrogate. This is done when an individual has lost the capacity to make decisions on their own, but they didn't have a medical power of attorney in place. So typically this would be an appointed physician. So in the hospital, primary care physician that would then appoint a healthcare surrogate. Typically that's next of kin, so a spouse, a adult child, things of that sort. So if you don't want that to happen where a physician has to make that decision for you, I encourage everyone to make sure that medical power of attorney is in place. And then next we have a living will. So this is a legal document that allows you to specify your wishes regarding medical treatment, typically going hand in hand with medical power of attorney. Again, making sure that your wishes are known by not only your medical power of attorney, but any caregiver support that you have, including your long distance caregiver. And research. So this is another big one that I think long distance caregivers can be such a valuable asset in the caregiving journey. Maybe they're not providing the day-to-day support in person, but with your long distance caregiving, you can take the time to research for this individual, your loved one, as well as for maybe other caregivers that are assisting your loved one. So this could look like researching health conditions and diagnoses. So whether that is a diagnosis recently received or a diagnosis that this person, your loved one, has had for quite some time, making sure you're up to par with knowing what does this health condition consist of? What are some signs and symptoms I should be looking for if we're seeing some changes? Any treatments your loved one has either had, past, or present, as well as keeping up to date with maybe some new treatments that might be available to the health conditions that your loved one has, as well as, if somebody is recently diagnosed with something, researching the doctors or specialists that might best suit the needs of your loved one to manage this health condition. I also encourage to, I'll probably say this a couple of times through this presentation, just having that open communication, whether that is instigated by a long distance caregiver, having that open conversation, or encouraging your loved one to, set aside some time so you both can, get up to date on how you're feeling. What are your symptoms at this time? How can I be helping? And I'll dive into that a little bit further too. But researching medications that can go along with treatments as well. So again, keeping tabs of that list of medications. So that way you know kind of what your loved one is taking, if they are consistently taking it, if maybe it's a medication that they no longer think that they need. So that way you can talk about that and advocate for them, whether with the doctors or joining virtually on a doctor's appointment to discuss that. Being aware of any side effects of medications. Again, this can be medications that a person has been taking long-term or short-term. I think typically we see side effects if it's a newer medication and, maybe we call our loved one to check in and they seem more confused than what they usually are or more tired. So being aware if they are taking a new medication, is this a potential side effect or is their health changing? Medication schedules, that kind of goes in how I discussed kind of having that pill organizer or setting up the auto delivery of medications. Just having that schedule available, that way when your loved one is supposed to be taking their medications, how often, again, the prescriber of it. I know many individuals who have a number of specialists and a number of doctors that they go to. So it's nice to know as a long distance caregiver, if you need to call a prescriber, a certain specialist, or a certain doctor, you already have their name and you know who to call for that certain medication. As well as pharmacy. So whether that is an auto delivery pharmacy option or whether that is a pharmacy that your loved one goes to pick up medications, could be helpful, especially if you are assisting with refills, to know who to call and place that refill in there. Researching long-term care options. So I think this is something a lot of long distance caregivers can certainly assist with. If we are helping a loved one that is in their home, again, we want to try, if their goal is to stay at home, as a long distance caregiver, we want to research and support them as much as we can to make sure that they can do that safely. However, as a long distance caregiver too, it might be opening up that conversation to discuss, okay, if there comes a time where we all are noticing maybe it's not safe for you to be at home or you're not feeling safe at home, what are some long-term care options available? And what would you be willing to look into or unwilling to look into? So that could be, that can include independent livings, assisted livings, memory care units. A lot of the times, the independent livings might have some options to also have assisted living and memory care. There are nursing home facilities if your care needs reach a certain extent, and overall navigating changing needs. So as a long distance caregiver, kind of, again, doing the research to see, am I seeing a normal progression of my loved one aging? Do I have a concern that their health condition is getting worse? And what is this going to look like long term? Insurance benefits. I know this one could be a doozy for a lot of people, but a long distance caregiver can certainly help with this. Checking in with Medicare and Medicaid, seeing what the benefits are for your loved one, whether they have private insurance, and being aware if they have a long-term care insurance policy that can definitely help in the long-term care option planning. But insurance benefits certainly, there can be some wait time if you're a long distance caregiver calling. So that could definitely release some burden on your loved one, or maybe the day-to-day caregiver. If you say, okay, I'll get on the phone, I'll call Medicare, and I'll wait to talk to a representative and ask the questions that we need answered. So moving forward, looking at day-to-day support. So you might be wondering, how can I even provide day-to-day support if I am a long distance caregiver? I live nowhere near my loved one, but there are ways to do it. And again, I think technology has been fantastic in this, but there's some other ways to to show your support day to day. So again, with that honest and open communication, asking your loved one how you can be the most helpful. They are the ones that are driving the ship. They are the ones that, they are living in their bodies. They are feeling the changes. They might notice the changes. So asking how you can be the most helpful. I always talk with older adults and various individuals when we're considering, who we seek when we need help. It might not always be the same person for same things. So I might go to my mom for emotional support because that would be the most helpful to me. But I might go to my dad for more of the physical help on side of things because that would be the most helpful for me. So considering that too as a long distance caregiver, if your loved one wants you to help with certain things, help with that. You might in your mind have an idea of what you want to help with. But again, talking with your loved one and saying, here's something I would love to help you with. Do you need help with this? Or how can I be the most helpful? And hearing that from them. It can also be helpful to ask if there are any formal or informal caregivers in the home or assisting your loved one, how you can be the most helpful as well if there is a caregiver that is helping. And staying in regular contact with a primary caregiver as well as your loved one. So that can look different for everyone. I know some individuals, they check in every day with their loved one. That might not be feasible for some other long distance caregivers. So maybe you plan 1 day a week at a certain time that you check in, or you email or text, or, utilize the different ways to stay in regular contact. Again, not only with your loved one, but if there are primary caregivers involved that are doing the day-to-day care, kind of staying in regular contact with them. Hey, how was mom's day today? Can go a long way. As well as listening, as human beings, I think a lot of the times we just want to be heard, especially if we are going through any changes in life. So taking the time to truly listen to your loved one, again, that can start off with asking how you could be the most helpful, but maybe your conversation shifts and you're, discussing some of the challenges that they're having, and providing just that support, that listening ear, and providing encouragement if you can, as well as a day-to-day caregiver. They could also be going through a lot as they are navigating the direct caregiving if they are day-to-day. I would say that was probably more so for our informal supports where we could, certainly provide that listening ear. More of our formal supports, we could still listen though, because they usually have the expertise and training. So they can tell us, hey, I'm starting to notice some changes in mom. So taking the time to really listen to them and what they have to say. If possible, I'm trying to travel to stay with your person, your loved one, for a few days, whether there is a primary caregiver involved or not. Traveling just to visit your loved one. So that way you yourself can have your eyes and ears open when you visit your loved one. I think sometimes too, we can, as humans, downplay maybe some of the challenges that we're running into. So if you take the time to travel and visit your loved one, you can really see for yourself, okay, how is my loved one walking around their home? Are they able to take care of themselves? Let me watch them prepare their meals, and things of that sort. Is the house safe? As well as if there is a day-to-day caregiver, whether living in the home, or a professional caregiver, gives them a few days off if you feel comfortable stepping into that caregiving role that way. A big one that I think a lot of people seek out is respite care. So, as a long distance caregiver, whether you are the respite care, so planning to visit for a week at a time to give the primary caregiver a break, or if you are calling and setting up respite care, whether that is in the form of formal supports, so seeking out an in-home aide, adult day care program, or looking into those informal supports like volunteers or other family members that can maybe step in and provide that respite care if there is a primary caregiver that's doing the day-to-day support. All right, this kind of goes into our day-to-day, but staying connected with your loved one as a long distance caregiver. So what this can look like is creating a list of important phone numbers and email addresses. So that kind of goes back to knowing what physicians and specialists your person is involved with. Maybe getting the phone numbers and addresses of the neighbors, introduce yourself if you do go visit. So that way they might know, hey, can you keep an eye on mom? She lives alone. I don't live here. I'm just visiting. Here's my phone number. Can I get your phone number as well in case there's a time where maybe I called and she hasn't gotten back to me and I'm concerned? As well as, any other phone numbers that would be pertinent. So anyone that might be local that could check in on your loved one, any caregivers that are assisting with your loved one, and any activities that they might be involved in. Keeping a shared document and updating it regularly. So this can be done either on computer or, an actual printout document, but updating it regularly, I think, is the key thing here. Again, making sure that not only you as the long distance caregiver have these phone numbers, email addresses, names, things of that sort, but making sure your loved one has it and anyone else that is involved in care. A great option is setting up a shared calendar. So this can really help with doctor's appointments. Maybe your loved one is seeing physical therapy, occupational therapy. Maybe your loved one just has a hair appointment. That way you can kind of keep up with what they are doing. And, remind them, hey, I saw on the calendar tomorrow you're getting your hair done. Are you excited for that? As well as maybe if you have something on your calendar, your loved one might be able to see, oh, I see, you're going to a baseball game on Friday, have fun. So that can be a great option in staying connected. Again, scheduling maybe days and times to check in, especially, usually as a long distance caregiver, you have a life of your own. You might have a family, other responsibilities, your job. So it might be easiest to just schedule, hey, every Wednesday at 12 o'clock, I'm going to call and check in with you. Doesn't have to be anything super long or crazy, or I've got an hour to talk to you, whatever that might look like. Sometimes scheduling that time can be really beneficial for both parties, as well as if there's any caregiver support day to day, even scheduling time with them to check in if there's a caregiver that's helping out, just to see how everything's going. Staying connected, making sure that IT support is available. So whether that is through you as the long distance caregiver, or maybe finding resources, connections that can help your person. So making sure that they understand if they do have a smartphone or any sort of mobile phone, do they know how to answer phone calls? Do they know how to text on it? If they have computers and tablets, do they know how to log in? Maybe I need to keep a sheet of passwords to help in case she gets locked out or anything like that. Assisting with setting up an email account if other family members or even yourself want to stay connected with them. So ways that we can definitely support as a long distance caregiver. Safety, I think, is another big realm when considering how we can, from a distance, keep our loved ones safe. So this can look like a couple of things. Home modifications. So as a long distance caregiver, we can, help with setting up home safety assessments. I know in Fairfax County, there are a couple of different resources, ElderLink included, that can provide home safety assessments to really look at people's homes and make sure that they are as safe as possible, suggesting any modifications that need to be done, such as adding maybe grab bars, making sure there's adequate lighting, rearranging furniture, getting ramps in and out of the home. And certainly, if you are a long distance caregiver who has the capability to travel and visit, it's something that you can see for yourself. Oh, the stairs are looking a little wobbly. Let me call, a handyman to come on out and take a look at those. Emergency alert systems. So that can be in the term of, necklace pendant where your loved one wears it, pressing the button to contact either you or 911 in case of an emergency. There are certainly great options with watches. Any sort of brand, I think, as long as it's a smartwatch, have a variety of capabilities that can sense, has my loved one fallen? It will call if it'll call 911 if they don't get a response, or call you directly. Setting up some sort of phone system in the home that can have an emergency alert if anything were to happen with your loved one can be additional ways to keep safe. Again, that technology side of things, really truly just making sure we're safeguarding all of the technology that our loved one has. So again, that can look like ourselves as the long distance caregiver, keeping tabs of what passwords are, what they're signed up for, educating them on what potential scams can happen because there are a ton out there. So taking the time to do that as well. And any technology assistance can certainly be helpful in the home. So, video doorbell. So that way your loved one doesn't have to always, answer the door if they don't feel comfortable or aren't rushing to the door and potentially putting themselves in an unsafe circumstance. I know some long distance caregivers feel comfortable after talking with their loved ones, putting maybe video cameras in the home just to make sure, mom got home safely after she went to bingo. Again, doing this with consent of your loved one, I think is the key here too. And interactive voice assistants. So I kind of mentioned like an Alexa or something of that sort where you can, talk with them. A lot of the times they can even do phone calls through them. So it could be a great option for safety for your loved one. So diving in a little bit more into visiting your loved one and how you can be the most beneficial as you are a long distance caregiver coming to visit them. So trying to set the time to talk ahead of time and find out what they would like to do during your visit. So maybe they have specific tasks that they want to get done. I really need help with changing the batteries and all of the fire alarms in my home. So that way you come prepared with that stuff. Or even taking the time, okay, when I come out and visit, I really want to review your medical power of attorney and make sure that it's up to date with everything that's needed in it. So finding out what your loved one would like to do, as well as anything that you might need to get done. And setting realistic goals for the visit. Certainly we can come in gung-ho and want to get A through Z completed, but that just might not be feasible and could be overwhelming, not only to your loved one, but yourself to feel like you have to get everything done in your visit. So try to prioritize what is the most important thing for me to get done during this visit, if there is a task that needs to be done. And taking time to do activities unrelated to caregiving. So I know sometimes we might be limited on time and we want to check all the boxes and make sure all the paperwork is done and appointments are set. But I think it's so important to remember as you are visiting to take that uninterrupted time to do activities together and spend time with your loved one. That can be, watching a TV show together, going out to dinner, taking a walk together. It can look different for each individual, but just making sure you're taking the time to do other things besides just tasks when you are visiting. Again, too, if there is a caregiver that is providing the day-to-day support, can also touch base with them and see what they might need when you come to visit. Enlisting resources, another big one that can really be beneficial to our loved ones as a long distance caregiver. So again, that open communication, checking in with your loved one, really asking them what they need, how you can support them, what you can look into for them, and just keep that line open. Certainly, depending on where your loved one lives, I'm most familiar with Fairfax County, but seeking the support of the Area Agency on Aging. Each state has and county has their Area Agency on Aging, so it could be a good starting point if you're not sure where to find resources or need some guidance. There are certainly case management services. So there are certain companies that can provide case management and can provide some of that day-to-day support that maybe you are unable to do as a long distance caregiver. And they work in conjunction with you. They are an added layer of support in making sure your loved one is taken care of. Seeking out support groups. As a long distance caregiver, I think, we might not think, oh, well, since I'm not in the day-to-day trenches, I'm not a quote unquote real caregiver, but that's just not the case. Because as you can see, as I talked the majority of this time, there is so much that can go into being a long distance caregiver. And you deserve the support too. So that way you can continue supporting your loved one in whatever journey they're on. So seeking out the support groups, word of mouth, talking to other people who maybe are in similar shoes as you, or maybe have taken care of their loved ones from a long distance as well, and see what resources were most beneficial to them. And then seeking any caregiver education. So this can be, physical education. So that way, when you do come and visit, you kind of feel confident in what you're able to do. Or just overall, again, already being here and listening to this discussion, you're receiving the caregiver education needed to continue on with your long distance caregiving journey. So continue to seek that out. Again, just want to stress that you can still provide support as a caregiver, even if you don't live close by. As we could see in this discussion, a long distance caregiver can assist with arranging any in-home care, that care management side of things, researching long-term care options, planning for the in-person visits, ordering medical equipment and that medical management side of things, financial management, assist with paying bills and managing insurance, as well as that advanced care planning side of things. So you are doing, if you are a long distance caregiver or find yourself in that state, you are just as valuable in the caregiving journey as our formal supports, informal supports, day-to-day supports, and hopefully this gave you some ideas, whether you are new to the long distance caregiving journey or you've been in it for a while, of different ways that you can help support your loved one in their care. That is the end of my presentation. So I want to thank you guys for allowing me the space to share all of that with you. ElderLink is a great support as well for primarily Fairfax County. However, we do have caregivers call from out of town and ask for resources for their loved ones that might live in Fairfax County. So I encourage, if you want some more information or not quite sure where to start, you could always call us on our intake line. The phone number is listed right there. Or we do have two websites, one through the Inova healthcare system and one through Fairfax County that you can visit if you'd like some further information. But yeah, thank you so much. I think maybe time for questions if there are any questions.
Yes, thank you so much, Demi. This has been great. Now we would like to open up the Q&A to the audience. So if you have any questions, go ahead and submit and we will start asking. This first question says, what are the best ways and sources to research and select an out of area nursing home facility?
That's a really great question. And I think a common question that a lot of people have. So again, I think if you are starting off, certainly contacting your area agency on aging can be a great option. Just to see what they might just have a general list or a guide of the nursing home facilities that are available in that area that your loved one is living. As well as there are long-term care ombudsmans that can assist with that as well. They usually prefer if you have it narrowed down to maybe one or two nursing home facilities, but they are able to give you the ratings and how many beds are available and what insurance coverage that facility takes, or if it's an out-of-pocket expense. But certainly that could be a great way to start. Again, using that word of mouth option, taking the time to research, finding checklists too of what to look for when you are seeking out nursing home facilities, and encouraging your loved one to be a part of that process too. Because if they are going to be moving to that nursing home facility, you want to make sure that if they are able to, join along for that process, that they have a say in it as well. So I think that would be a good starting point.
Hey, this next question, is it recommended to use online free forums to set up durable power of attorney and medical power of attorney until we can meet an attorney?
So I won't say yes or no for sure, just because each state can be certainly different in what they allow versus not allow in terms of a durable power of attorney and medical power of attorney, and which ones they honor. So unfortunately, I have come across in my work history with hospice where maybe someone did use that online free form and it had some of the information on there, but maybe it wasn't notarized by someone, or it was for a different state when they were seeking treatment in Virginia, but it was from Nevada or something like that. So I think it could be a good base, especially if you're at least starting the conversation with your loved one on what are your wishes. So that way I can at least be aware. It can help kind of walk you through what the wishes are. But there's other options out there that I think are a little bit more beneficial, like the 5 wishes. Um, it is a packet that I believe it can be sent to you in the mail, that can be filled out. And I think that's a little bit more straightforward than an online form, and usually more so accepted in different states. But definitely, if you can either find an attorney, someone that can do a pro bono or low cost, I think, making sure you have that official person looking at it, that's how you can guarantee it's going to work no matter where you're at.
Okay. I just wanted to ask you, Demi, we are getting some great questions.
Yeah.
Do you have an extra 5 minutes?
I do.
Okay. Thank you so much. I just wanted to ask. This next question, I have a family member in Florida. Is Area Agency on Aging available in Florida as well for services such as respite care?
Yeah, so the area agencies on aging, they are everywhere. So they should definitely be in Florida. I would look into what county your person lives in. So that way you are specifically being guided in the right direction where your person is located. Respite care, I can't confidently say. There might be different. I know Medicare There are different options for respite care, but you have to kind of dive in a little bit on that. Fortunately, I just don't have the yes or no for that one since I'm not as familiar with Florida, but could be worth asking when you call the area agency on aging. Ask them what kind of respite programs they might have available to you.
What do you do when your loved one refuses or cancels all the help you set up? My 90-year-old mom sent back life alert, canceled Meals on Wheels, will not even consider assisted living or even more in-home care.
Oh, this is more common than I would like to admit sometimes. Yeah, this is a big one, especially, I mean, your mom is 90 years old. She's probably, used to 90 years of doing things on her own and being independent as possible. So it can really be a challenge to um, you know, get your person to accept those services. I think the important part, but it can still be frustrating, is just trying to meet your person where they're at. Making sure that not every conversation goes down that hole, right? Like, well, mom, like you need XYZ. It might be kind of turning the conversation a little bit and say, mom, I really care about you. I really want to make sure you have all the resources that I feel you need to keep doing what you're doing. If you're not interested in assisted living or anything like that, I want to make sure you're safe at home. So, what is something that, how do you see that playing out? Like, kind of turn the tables a little bit and say, mom, from your perspective, how do you see this playing out, and what can I help you with? Sometimes it might take enlisting the help of somebody else as well. Um, I can't tell you how many times as a social worker I have gone in and I've said the exact same things that a daughter or a spouse has said to their loved ones, but for some reason they like it coming better out of my mouth than their family. So it might be kind of enlisting that help that way, whether it's through a case manager or even the doctor's office or something like that, where it's a professional who is explaining the positives of some of the resources that you're trying to set up for your mom. Definitely a big frustration and stressor. So I definitely hear that, but trying to meet her where she's at, again, trying to circle it back to ask her, well, what do you feel you need? And maybe enlisting the help of professionals if you need it.
Are there supports to help folks transitioning out of nursing facilities and provide support during this transition, especially when families live far away?
Yeah, so I think this can look different depending on the area and where your person is located. A lot of the times, if an individual is located in a nursing facility, a lot of the times the facility staff are really hands on with that process and helping with the discharge planning. So I think making sure you're connected with the staff that way. They usually have, a nurse manager, a case manager, things of that sort that are helping with the discharge planning. So connecting with the facility, as well as you could always ask the facility too, what local resources do you guys have or usually suggest to people as they are discharging from a nursing facility? Um, and go from there. Again, calling that area agency on aging where your person is located, or even seeking out like a case management service if you're looking for like just a short term kind of case manager that's going to be hands on helping your person navigate the transition from nursing facility to, I'm assuming, a home setting.
I am 6 hours away from my 90-year-old loved one who needs occasional help. My advice, if you are a long distance like me, learn the local police number. My loved one had fallen and could not reach their phone to call for help. A neighbor noticed the house was dark at night and called me. I called the local police to do a wellness checkup on him. All is well, but it was quite scary for nearly an hour.
Yes, that is such a valuable point. Andrea, I'm not sure how to say it, but yes, definitely knowing those non-emergent phone lines, whether that is through the police, EMTs, things of that sort. And I love the fact that your neighbor felt comfortable enough, or her neighbor felt comfortable enough reaching out to you too. saying, hey, I've noticed no lights have been on, what's going on. So I think that's so important when we are building those connections with the supports that are local, and definitely calling those professional resources as well. I'm so glad everything worked out, but yeah, that's what they're there for too. The police and EMTs, they do those wellness checks all the time. So definitely don't hesitate if you are concerned and can't get in touch with your loved one, reach out to them.
What is your opinion of the rating system provided by Medicare.gov by zip code for nationwide nursing homes and assisted living facilities?
I think it's a great option when we're researching some facilities, especially if we're not as familiar with the area, um, or we're just not sure where to get started or want to get opinions on different facilities. I think it's a great starting point because a lot of the ratings, Medicare is receiving from the people themselves that are getting the nursing care. I always do say, take every review with a grain of salt. A lot of the times, if you think about even when we go out to a restaurant, a lot of the times we'll take the time to leave a negative review, but we won't necessarily take the time to leave a positive review. So I always encourage that, take it a little bit with a grain of salt. And certainly, too, if possible, aside from just doing the research online, setting up, a virtual tour of a place or getting connected with the people that work there. So that way you can kind of, if you're not able to physically visit, you can kind of get a feel that way too.
How do one get the form for 5 Ask question?
Oh, the 5 wishes. Let me see. If you go to, it's actually just listed as 5wishes.org. You're able to get it through the website that way. And like I said, I think I see on here you can get a digital copy, but most of the time they prefer to mail it out to you. So I would recommend going to their website.
We should have copies of the MPOA.
Oh, yeah. So I think anyone that won, you trust. But certainly whoever is listed as the medical power of attorney. I know a lot of the cases there can be a primary, secondary, even a judiciary. So making sure anyone who is appointed as the medical power of attorney has a copy of it and is okay with being a medical power of attorney. I think that's another big one I like to add. Because sometimes we might put someone down and they're like, I never agreed to do that. So also confirming that they're okay with being a decision maker. Making sure any doctors or specialists have it. Yourself as a long distance caregiver. So that way, whether you are the medical power of attorney or somebody else's, you know who to contact in case you need it. Otherwise, depending on the state and the healthcare system that you use, a lot of the times there is a way to register your medical power of attorney in what's the word I'm looking for? You can register it online. The words are escaping me, but that way, like let's say Inova, for example, they could look in and see, okay, does Deme Warner have a medical power of attorney? And usually my medical power of attorney, I would give consent to say, yes, enlist me in this. So that way my healthcare provider can look at it. So I think those are the top people, and your loved one, make sure they have a copy of it too. You could always too, I find the refrigerator is a hub of advanced directives. So a lot of people will put their medical power of attorneys, their DNRs, if they have one, on their fridge, just as an easy visual, and they know it's right there. So suggestion there.
Hey, what is your opinion about the 5-year look back banning any financial donations that Medicaid imposes before granting any Medicaid payments to any Medicaid applicant?
I am not as familiar in the Medicaid realm. I usually work a lot with Fairfax County in referring my clients if they are applying for Medicaid. So I know they have certain regulations that they have to follow. I'm not 100% sure how they come to those, timelines and things of that sort. But I know it can be frustrating for certain individuals if they are looking for Medicaid. I just encourage anyone who is helping an older adult with finances and maybe potentially working towards Medicaid, keep receipts of everything. Um, you know, if your loved one is comfortable with transferring accounts at a certain time and kind of explaining the long-term planning of it. Again, just having those open conversations. But yeah, I know they have their stipulations and I know it can definitely be frustrated. But I think just being as prepared as possible if you foresee going down the Medicaid route, what it takes to qualify for it. And I think keeping up to date with that too, because who knows, in 5 years, that could look totally different than what it does today.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Um, we are actually at the end of our hour. Thank you so much for staying on the show for 5 minutes. I just wanted to also ask you before we end, if you can talk a little bit more about the caregiver consultations that ElderLink provides.
Yes, yes. So, our caregiver consultations, they are a free 1 hour consultation that we provide to caregivers or even older adults themselves. They might be calling in asking for resources themselves. But a lot of the times it is caregivers, a lot of the times it is long distance caregivers who don't live in Fairfax County or don't even live in Virginia, period. And they might explain, their circumstance with, their loved one that they are supporting. And like I said, it's an hour. We provide it for free. It's not just a one and done thing either. If you talk to someone and we get you some resources, you might not be ready to either enroll someone in some of the resources or the programs, you could always call again and request another consult. We have plenty of people do that. But it's a great way. I say no two phone calls are alike because no two circumstances are alike. So just calling in and it might just be saying, hey, my mom lives in Fairfax County. What's available to her? And we kind of go from there with you. We might enroll you either in our ElderLink program if you're eligible, or maybe there's services through Fairfax County that your loved one's available in, or maybe some general community resources. So the 1 hour consult is really case by case basis on what it looks like, but definitely an option. I always encourage everyone, if you just don't know where to start or have some general questions, you could always call us. And you get set up with either myself as a case manager or there's a whole team of case managers that will take the time to talk with you and help you navigate resources and your caregiving journey and things of that sort.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time and your expertise and just your willingness to share with our caregiver audience.
Of course.
Yes, yes. And I also wanted to thank the audience for being here a little over an hour.
Yeah.
I would love to invite you to our next caregiver webinar, Care for Others, Care for Yourself, on Wednesday, July 16th from 12 to 1. And just another reminder to please fill out the survey. Again, this allows us to view the feedback so we could generate future programming for the community. So I hope everyone has a great afternoon. Thank you and take care.
Thank you.